Welcome to another edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I've got a very special guest for this one, my good friend Matt Phillips.
Hey guys.
We're filming this in Matt's home office, and the subject of today's Tim's Vinyl Confessions is a band that we've both been into from the very beginning, Skid Row. And it's timely because I'm not sure when this is going to air, but it's going to be sometime shortly before we actually go to see them. So we're going to talk more about that a little bit later on. We're going to just basically go through our Skid Row collections. They don't have a huge catalog, but we're going to talk about what we've got. We've got, between the two of us, some cool stuff. So the Skid Row, TVC. One piece of vinyl, one of my prized vinyl possessions. This is the first Skid Row album from 1989 on Atlantic Records. This is a very, very successful album. 5 million and counting sold. And this is a Canadian version that I was fortunate to pick up. You don't see a lot of Skid Row vinyl, and that's the only one that I've seen. So what's inside of it is the lyrics and credits, same as the cassette and the CD. Nice heavy paper sleeve on this one. And the usual green and red Atlantic logo on the record itself. This vinyl is in pretty good shape. So I've never played it because know what it sounds like anyway, and besides which, we both have the first album on CD. I think ours are identical right down to the fact these both originated from Columbia House, if you look at the fine print on the side. Now, Matt, show us the credits inside of that. And while Matt does that, I'm going to put this up as a nice little centerpiece here.
So one thing I really love about this, well, they have the lyrics printed on the inside. They're kind of small here to read, but Skid Row, I've always loved the stuff that they write about, the stories and the lyrics and whatnot. And some of the stuff he sings a little fast, so it's good to have something to be.
Yeah, a song like "Making a Mess" comes to mind.
Yeah, exactly.
What's he actually saying? So our Skid Row debut album CDs are identical. So now we will get. Okay, which one have you got there?
I've got, this is their second record, Slave to the Grind. Yeah. And what I did was I combined mine, because Tim will explain to you why there's two versions of this record.
Oh, okay, so you've got both discs in there? Is that what it is? Okay. Yeah. Matt's version he has there is that's a Canadian Columbia House version, and yeah, there were two CDs. This is one of the first times I can think of, at least for a band that I followed, that they released two versions of the same album simultaneously. Yeah, he's got it in a flip-out double CD, which is a good idea. The reason that it's different, they actually had two different catalog numbers as well. The catalog number 82242, which is what mine is. Mine's a Canadian version. The sixth song on the album, or the last song on side one, if you're speaking in vinyl and cassette terms, is a ballad called, it's not a ballad, Get the F-U-C-K Out. No bleeps, no asterisks, just written out there in all its glory. I think it's the first time I've actually seen the word written on a popular CD. And that was the version that was released, I think, originally. Let's take a look at this artwork before we get too far into it. This is a really cool, it's a great album.
The painting done by his father.
This is a painting done by then singer Sebastian Bach's father, David Burke. I think that's how you pronounce his name. It's B-I-E-R-K. And that's, of course, that's Sebastian's real name. Lyrics, not a lot of credits, but lyrics on the other side of it. And some stores, predictably, would not stock the version that had that song on it. So rather than keep fans from, potentially hearing it, they issued another version of Slave to the Grind. 82278 was the number on it. And this is an American version, and this has the sixth song, or the last song on side one, is a song called Beggar's Day. And I'm surprised that over the years that there hasn't been, and maybe there still will be, Rock Candy Records or some label like that will do a deluxe version and combine. And that's what the CD itself looks like. Pictures of the group, Always such a cool looking group too. So Slave to the Grind, no matter what form you get it in, it's a fantastic album. It came out in 1991, by the way. The next thing to come out from Skid Row came out in fall of 92.
Beside Ourselves.
Yeah, the reason it's called Beside Ourselves is it's 5 songs. They're all cover versions. And I think they all appeared in one form or another as the B-side of the single. I know that because before this came out, the second song on here is Come On and Love Me, which is a Kiss song, of course. It was the B-side of Wasted Time.
Oh,
so,
interesting.
what I've got, this is really interesting because I've got the Canadian version. I bought this when it first came out. If you look on the side, it just says Skid Row. It actually does say Beside Ourselves. It's just in a very, very dark print. Matt's got the American version he's holding up. So front covers and side, vastly different. You can actually read the title, Beside Ourselves, down along the front cover. And you can't on mine. This is a very poor decision by Warner Music of Canada to put it out like this. But that's not where it ends. The CD itself looks pretty cool.
CD, I think, is
It's about the one thing that's the same, yeah. Except for the minor variations of address. And this is the booklet to the Canadian version of Beside Ourselves. It's got the front cover, which I like. The front cover is the caricatures of the group. And then on the back, black and white photo of the band. Now Matt's American version, as you'll see, folds out, and it's got that same photo of the band, but it's huge. And it's got a lot more information about the songs.
It's a huge photo.
And the premise behind, so I'm definitely going to find this. I'm definitely going to find this again because
keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah, it's strange because it's almost like I got a budget version, but I got it when it first came out. The premise behind this covers EP, Skid Row are one of those bands that were just as big a fan as, you know, rock bands as anybody. They were like themselves fans. They didn't forget what it was like. So it was them paying homage to groups that they'd grown up with, and each member of the band at that time picked up the song. Psychotherapy is the opening song, sung by bassist Rachel Bolan. It was obviously his pick. He's a huge punk fan, so that's a Ramones cover. Snake Sabo, I think, is an insanely huge Kiss fan, although I think they all were or are. So he picked Come On and Love Me. Sebastian Bach, huge fan of Rob Halford and Judas Priest. This is a live version of Judas Priest delivering the goods with Rob Halford himself, which I'm sure was a thrill for Sebastian. It's actually live, I think. Yeah, it's live in Phoenix. What You're Doing is a song from the first Rush album, and for me, Rush was always a band that they were not considered a cool band. When Skid Row covered a Rush song, to me it was sort of a take that. Because if they're cool enough for Skid Row, they're cool enough for
you. You were into Rush at that point?
Oh, way. Yeah. Way sooner than I was into Skid Row. Yeah. And they did a very good version. And Scotty Hill, but that was Rob Efuso, their drummer's pick. Makes sense to pick a Rush song. And Scotty Hill picked Jimi Hendrix's Little Wing. And Little Wing and Psychotherapy had videos made for them. So that's Beside Ourselves. I've got to track down a US copy, like Matt has. So it was a long wait between Skid Row albums. And we'll show yours first. Finally in '95, Subhuman Race came out, still on the Atlantic label. And this was, this for me was one of the very first albums I bought in a digipack form, which is what Matt's holding up here.
So the digipack is they're getting away from the plastic cases. And they started out moving towards kind of a hybrid where you have cardboard on the outside, you know, say for trees.
Sort of a plastic
and then a plastic insert.
Cart or tray.
Which, personally, I'm not a huge fan of this because, as you can see...
The little spindles will break.
Yep.
And these get...
A little bit of wear and tear there. And I mean, you know, we take care of our stuff and there's just nothing you can do about that.
And that's exactly like the version that I picked up of Subhuman Race. Eventually I replaced it because what will happen is it'll come out like that for a while, and then they would usually release a good old-fashioned jewel case, which is what I've got here. Same thing happened, and I still have yet to get another one when Metallica's Death Magnetic came out, because the packaging in that is even more unwieldy.
Yeah. Yours just has a slight variation on the back, I noticed. There's a... where it says...
Oh, where it's produced by Bob Rock. His is in white, mine's in red. This, if you notice closely too, I'll take the booklet out of here. This is a huge booklet. Credits go on for days. But what I thought was neat about this is if you see where it says Skid Row, it looks like it's just a regular font. but if you look close in black around it, it forms the sort of, I don't know what you'd call that, sort of, what would you call that sort of font, the way their logo looks?
Oh, it's like a grungy type.
Yeah, like graffiti almost. So the credits to Subhuman Race, like I say, they seemingly go on forever. They thank everybody and their dog.
Probably another painting from Sebastian's father.
I think so.
His style for sure.
Yeah. I'm trying to find, of course, the lyrics. The side I'm looking at is the lyrics. This is the painting we're talking about. This was a very unharmonious band that produced this album. They were not getting along with Sebastian Bach.
Right there.
I thought I saw it for sale. Yes, paintings done by David Burke. Art direction, David Burke and Rachel Boland.
He's, I don't know if you can hold up the photo of the band there. I always thought that it looks like Richie Sambora.
Me too, and here's what's really funny. The first name up in the thank yous is Richie Sambora. So, oddly enough, Dave Sabo, Snake, was almost the lead guitarist in Bon Jovi. Bon Jovi would have been a much heavier band, although Richie fit them much better.
No, I have an unofficial CD. It's a 6-song CD.
Actually, it is. It's official. It's on Atlantic. It's just that it wasn't released in North America.
Ah, okay.
I don't have this.
It's kind of cool. Subhuman Beings on tour, and you're talking about Slave to the Grind, Delivering the Goods, Beat Yourself Blind, which would be from the album that we just talked about, Psychotherapy, Riot Act, and Monkey Business. So
really something from everything they'd done at that point.
Yeah, it even looks like it looks like a bootleg. It looks like somebody printed it on their inkjet printer kind of thing. So, and actually to go along with that.
Yeah, this one, what you're about to see now isn't actually official, but it's cool.
Yeah, this is definitely not official. Same thing, same Subhuman Beings on tour, but it's the whole concert from Tokyo, Japan.
And here's the interesting thing about that.
Super plain.
I almost saw the band on this tour. I saw Van Halen in 1995 on the Balance Tour in Old Orchard Beach, Maine, and when we arrived, there were Skid Row posters everywhere with yellow canceled banners across them. So Skid Row were opening for Van Halen on that leg of the tour, but they didn't make that one. Instead, we got Our Lady Peace, and we'll just end that part of it right there. Next up, the next release to come out, Skid Row were at that point in 95, 96, very bad blood between Sebastian Bach and the rest of the group. Very, very bad blood, and it's a shame. They were so good together. The next release to come out from Skid Row was in 98. Atlantic Records put this 40 seasons, the best of Skid Row, and it's the predictable collection of songs from their albums. Nothing from Beside Ourselves. There's no covers here. There are a couple of songs that are slightly different. Into Another is a remix. Frozen is a demo. My Enemy, Breaking Down the remixes. All of the songs from Subhuman Race are in some different form or another. There's a live version of Beat Yourself Blind. And the last two songs on this album, there's a song called Forever, which is really, for them, a really poppy song. It was recorded at, this is what the CD looks like, it was recorded at the same time as their first album. It sounds just like songs on their first album, the same drums, the same production sound. Not much gone into the art direction on here.
I always thought it looked kind of Rush-like a little bit. Definitely not Skid Row-ish.
That's true, the abstract images, And if you're going to grab one CD, throw it in the car if you don't want to burn one yourself. It's a good collection of songs, no question. And then there was a long gap, a really, really long gap between releases. And then finally, Skid Row got together in 2000 with a new singer, a guy named Johnny Solinger, and a new drummer, Phil Verone, who used to be in Saigon Kick. And eventually, they produced an album. And this was 2003, Thick Skin. And I think this is a great album. This was a pleasant surprise in a year where there weren't a lot of great classic hard rock albums coming out. They put out this, what I would call a very successful comeback, at least musically. Does it necessarily sound like classic Skid Row? Some of it does, some of it doesn't, but it's all quite good. This is what the CD itself looks like. Both of our copies are Canadian versions, and they're on a label called Just a Minute Records, which sounds to me like a punk label, which would sort of fit their aesthetic. There's the front and back cover, and get pictures of the group as it was at the time. I would recommend this to someone who kind of forgot about Skid Row after, you know, Sebastian Bach left. It's worth giving this a listen to.
So Skid Row had gotten back together, and they went out on tour with Kiss on the reunion tour.
Well, it was the farewell.
Farewell tour.
Yeah.
Keep getting
It was Skid Row and Ted Nugent opening for Kiss, but it was quite a long time before they actually got around to making an album. And they actually documented the making of that album with this. This is an officially released DVD called Under the Skin, The Making of Thick Skin. So this features a lot of interview footage, a lot of documentary footage about basically how they came back together after such almost a 10-year 10-year absence from recording. And it shows them in the studio recording on some of the songs that appeared on Thick Skin, and some songs that didn't, some goofing around.
I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
I've watched this probably at least 10 times, almost once a year.
And that's what the DVD itself looks like. Matt and I have the same copy.
It's cool being able to see them you actually see them in the studio, in Snake's home studio, kind of putting things together. And there's actually bits on there where it'll say, here they're in the studio, it'll say Untitled at the bottom. And there's just riffs that they're working on, and I don't think any of that stuff's ever even appeared.
Seen the light of day.
So.
And there's one scene with, Phil Verone's an interesting guy, to say the least. He's no longer with them. I think there's a little bit of bad blood there now, but he's a really good drummer, a really unique individual, seems like. But he actually talked about, there was something to do with Tico Torres. Didn't they record in John Bon Jovi's studio, some of it, or he borrowed one of Tico's drum kits or something? So, and the next thing, we'll get to this. I mean, this was the next album to come out from Skid Row, Revolutions Per Minute. This came out in 2006. I think we both had really high hopes for this album because this album reunited them with Michael Wagner, who was the producer. He's a classic hard rock metal producer, and he was the producer of their first two albums, which were both multi-platinum albums, successful albums. This just missed the mark. I could never get into this album at all.
I still don't own a copy.
No, I picked this up just to complete my collection. It's not a good sign for a band when the best song on it is a cover.
Which is a really decent cover.
It's a really good cover. It's funny because I was listening to this CD and the song comes on and I'm singing along with it. I'm like, how do I know the lyrics to this song? It's the song Strength, which was done by a band called The Alarm. It was a minor hit in the 80s. Well, I think in the UK it was a bigger hit, but I do remember it. You know, it's not bad on packaging. It's just, it's got the lyrics inside of it, but I just, knowing what the band is capable of.
I've actually never seen this before.
They just, I just think this fell way short of the mark. And then they had a different drummer on this album too, a guy named Dave Guerra. They had a Spinal Tap-ish succession of drummers. And then, quite honestly, I thought that was it for the recording crew because there was nothing coming out of Skid Row. But in 2013, the recording drought ended with this. It was announced that they were going to do a series of EPs instead of full-length albums, which for me is far preferable to simply releasing a song here and there on iTunes. I like having a physical thing to hold. United World Rebellion, they were going to do a series. This is Chapter 1, and it's a 5-song EP. Matt can show you the innards of it too. It's the same lineup except for they now have a drummer named Rob Hammersmith, and he's named on the inside. And I believe that the press at the time said that they were going to do 3 of these. In the UK, this has 5 songs on it. In the UK, I believe there were a couple of bonus tracks that were covers of Easy-O and Judas Priest songs. They offered a pack that had space to hold all of the
all three of
them once they were released, and it's good. It's far better than Revolutions Per Minute. I don't think it's quite as good as Thick Skin, but it's a step in the right direction. It's just basic hard rock metal. Skid Row always had a little bit of that punk influence too, but in my opinion, thankfully not too much. But just very loose, very raw, but very good playing. And then very rapidly, and what I like about the fact that they were committed to doing this EP thing, only a year later, so 2014 came Volume 2. This is Rise of the Damnation Army, United World Rebellion, Chapter 2. And as you can see, artwork very similar. And so this time around, it's 5 songs plus 2 bonus tracks. The North American version had 2 bonus tracks, and in my opinion, they're very well done. They're also covering bands and songs that I like. So they do Queen's Sheer Heart Attack, which if you're not familiar with Queen, you might think it's strange for Skid Row to do a Queen song. This is basically like a punk song. Yeah.
So you can...
It fits Skid Row very, very, very well. So, and then they do Aerosmith's Rats in the Cellar, a classic Aerosmith song. And the inside of this album, same lineup. They've got like an American flag motif behind them. This was Johnny Solinger's last recording with the group, because just a couple of months ago it was announced that he was replaced by Tony Harnell, who was the singer for he's not Norwegian, but he was singer for a Norwegian melodic metal band called TNT, and he is now the lead singer for Skid Row. And there's, as far as I know, still planning on doing Volume 3 of the EP.
United World Rebellion. So funny you should mention Tony Harnell.
We are going to find out what this lineup's all about very, very soon, July 24th. Get your tickets now. They're coming to Casino NB in Moncton, casinonb.ca. So Matt, I, and my nephew Will are going, and we're super pumped to see what this lineup does live. And Matt actually has one up on me because he's actually seen Skid Row in concert already. He'll tell you about it and show some...
So unfortunately, we've never seen the original Skid Row. I've seen the band in this formation, which is the first reformed band. You're talking about Phil Verall and Johnny Solinger still on vocals. And in 2003, and then again in 2004, they played at a place called Russell's Entertainment Complex in Bangor, Maine, so just a few hours away from my hometown. And this small little bar, and I was able to meet the band with another friend of ours, Bob Stevens, and get their signatures. I thought that was pretty cool. They were supporting the Thick Skin record at the time, so seeing a band kind of like in a really small, intimate venue is pretty cool sometimes. You've got some people that you've followed for pretty much since I was a teenager.
Beginning of their recording career. I mean, you'd never see Aerosmith in a small club like that. But then again, we weren't born, when they started. So this is a band that we basically grew up with from the first album onward. So yeah, and I'm looking forward to. And the Casino ND is a great venue too. It's not a tiny venue, but it's just. It's going to be great.
It's going to be a general admission show too, which I think you'll really dig.
It's going to be wild, yeah. And so we will definitely give you an update on how the concert went after we see it. So thanks for watching the Skid Row edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions. And remember, this will air before the concert. So get your tickets. Maybe we'll see you there.